to get into other columns, like we pick up zip code where we can see how many 267 rows where we have similar what you call or duplicate values. Yeah? So there are 267 unique values. For each value, you can have what I call corresponding duplicates in percentage. If you look at this 94104, where we can see what we call many records. How many? 17. But if you take California, where we have 52 rows, right? So which means what? There are a lot of duplicacy of data, which means there are many customers who belong to what? CA, which is California, right? So that is what you will see as part of this, right? So similarly, we have many customers belongs to what I call different zip code, but California and then followed by 94104, where we have many customers. Yeah? So that's what you would see as part of this. Yeah? And then the next is what we can pick up any other column also, like order amounts or country and so on, right? Where we could able to see corresponding results. Yeah? So we have what we call 392 rows, where there is what we call which means there are 23 unique values out of 500, and all this out of 23 there are many customers belongs to this particular country, which is what US. So which is same for almost all. Only thing is there is a difference in representation of data. So these are all what we call wrong data that need to be what we call fixed. So we have 392 with a value of what? US. So percentage of occurrence of US is what? 78.4 percentage. The rest of the records where they have not entered the right data, which is but not 100% right data. So these things we need to identify. Who need to do that? Normally, subject matter expert or business analyst. They are the right people who can start converting this US, USA to United States or whatever, and getting that particular data standardized so that we can correct rest of the records also. Similarly, for some people have given what I call zip codes, this also need to be converted to what I call country code, so that we can fix most of the records after analyzing this kind of data. So that is why first and foremost thing is what? Profiling is going to play a key role to understand the kind of data that we got from a given flat file or any other type. No? Now we can see one of the example where we can see the difference with respect to percentage of inference, right? You can see here actual source system type or document data type is what? String with a length of 13 characters. But inferred is what? Fixed length 2, which means we can see in the right side we have different values, right? How many values we have? Like if we take state code, we have what we call CA, New York, Washington, and so on, right? We have many records over here. Yeah? So out of n number of 500 records, we have what we call most of the records, which follows what? 2 character in length. Yeah? The rest of the records where they follow what? More than 2 characters, right? So how are we going to what we call come up with info data type based on majority of the records? So we have 97.59% of records with a length of what? 2 characters. That is why fixed length string with a length of what? 2 characters, because majority of the records follows what? 2 characters. But the other records, which is that's 100 minus 97.59, only that much percentage of records like San Ramon, San Francisco, and so on, right? They follow more than what we call 2 characters, which means what? Majority is going to be the input in order to derive or in order to come up with what? Inferred data type. Yeah? Now, once we understand that, then this part is done, which is what? Summary part. Basically, in summary, there are three things. One, null. Second, duplicacy. Third, range. That's it. I repeat, null, duplicacy, and range. Range means what? Max and min. These are the three essential properties which will be what I call understood by looking at summary properties of column profiling. Yeah? Now, let us get into detailed properties, which means what? Let us say we identified what I call this many unique values. Let's say 10 unique values or 20 unique values, or let's say 12 unique values over here. Yeah. Now, once we know that for each unique value, how many what you call occurrences we have, which means diamond, how many records where there is a diamond, and then ruby, how many records where there is a ruby. Similarly, bronze, how many records where there is a bronze. That will be answered by using what? Frequency attributes, where we represent the occurrence of number of records of this particular diamond value and the percentage of occurrence. How do you calculate? 116 divided by 500 into 100, which is percentage of occurrence, which is what you will see here, right? And then chart will be based on 23.2 percentage, which means out of complete 100% of grid, only 23.2 percentage will be filled in. That is what you would see as part of this what we call chart. Similarly, we need to follow similar steps for even for other unique values. Let's say if we pick up ruby, where we have 93 rows where we have ruby value, and percentage will be derived based on what? 93 rows. So same procedure need to be repeated for the rest of the values also. But here these are the two records which are individual records where we don't see any occurrence. That is why 0.2 percentage, which means 1 divided by 500 into 100, which is equal to what? 0.2 percentage. Yeah? So which means these are all unique records where there are no duplicates at all. Yeah? What do we infer from this? We are going to, or we could identify, okay, this much of percentage of duplicates of data we have for this particular column. Yeah? Then based on this, what analyst does is they are going to come up with what we call reference data by basing this. Not only one day, they are going to carry out analysis for some couple of months or years or whatever, and then start deriving what we call the reference data out of it. That will be taken as a base in order to perform standardization and correction and so on, which we are going to talk about in the coming sessions. Yeah? Now, if you look at that's the first part of this detailed properties, and next is what? Pattern-based analysis. This is one of the important detailed property that we have in this profiling. Now, what do we do as part of this particular pattern analysis? Broadly, we have two types in pattern analysis, namely numeric and string-based pattern. I repeat, there are two types of patterns, namely numeric and string-based what we call pattern. That is what you could see as part of this, right? String-based and numeric pattern. So once we understand that, the next thing is going to be what? We can start getting into what we call understanding how the pattern of data will be represented. But why this pattern is required? Remember, just by looking at the pattern, you will get to know how much is a good data, how much is a bad data, without looking at what the data all about. Yeah? At high level, which means what? Just by looking at the pattern, we could easily understand. For example, in this first pattern where we have X, which indicates a character, within parentheses we could see 7, which means what? It is a 7-character pattern where we have frequency, which means what? 186 rows where we have 7-character pattern, which is what you will see here. Now, we have 7-character pattern, right? So, Now the next is what? Percentage of this particular occurrence. How do you calculate? Same, which is similar to what we did with the values detail properties, where we are going to use here what do you call percentage, which means this much of percentage of data which follows this 7-character pattern. Yeah, yes, Sridhar. Let me just unmute so that you can ask questions. Yeah, go ahead, Sridhar.
Unmuted.
Yeah, go ahead, Sridhar.
Hi Shima. Hi Shima.
Yes, Sridhar. Yes, Sridhar.
Yeah. So when we do profiling, that where the data will be stored, the actual data, it will be stored in the repository, or only the metadata only will be stored in the repository.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is the data in that world will still be keep changing.
Right.
So
This will be stored. There is a profiling warehouse database, a profiling database warehouse. You will have separate connection. Within that, this output will be stored. Can you see here? This is a connection where profiling output will be stored.
the profiling output means what? Is the actual data itself it will be stored, or only that nulls, this much?
Only percentage, those things.
Okay, uniqueness, percentages,
Exactly.
nulls, like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the real time, like for data quality, if we get into data quality job or something like that, so we need to just extract that uniqueness, nulls, that percentage alone to the business analyst,
Yeah.
and they have to do that fixing work, or whose job is that?
No, they have to come up with the reference data. Then what developers need to do is they need to take the reference data as a base and start getting the data fixed. So developers need to do that. That is a one part of it. And second part is what fixing can also be done by analysts in case of what we call bad records or in case of duplicate records. These two things will be taken care by business analysts.
Okay.
First part is what they would come up with the reference data. Based on that, developers need to take care of building rules and start getting it fixed. That's the one part. Second part is what? Assuming that what you call developers, they have built some mappings. Output of that has been sent to some target. Now, in case if you have any bad data after producing the records target, then what analysts do is they are going to load those records onto this analyst and start getting the bad records fixed. That is a one flow from developer to analyst. Other flow is what? In case if the output of this mapping is going to be, let's say, duplicacies, and those duplicate records where there is a manual intervention is needed, right, to convert duplicate records to a master record, then in that case what will happen here is they are going to open those duplicate records, they will carry out analysis and get them converted to a master record. These are the two major options that would be done with respect to fixing bad and duplicate records by analyst role. Sridhar?
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay, there is a question from what Naresh, one by one. Let me just get into one by one. First question is, ID used to store the actual data as well for future reference and profiling. Is it the same in developer profiling? If you want to store, we can store it. If not, it's not mandated to store. There is a staging area which can be used to store it, but it's optional. If you don't want it, you don't need to store it. That's the first part. First question answered. Second question is what? In future profiling, you can't drill down unless we re-import the data. When you try to profile the data, right, we are going to take the input, then start profiling it. Once you profiling it, you'll have it in the temporary, then start performing drill down. Naresh, that's what happens. For example, let us say, let us pick up old data objects where the profiling is already been done. Example. Yeah? So let us pick up any previous profiling objects, let's say. Yeah? Profile elect customers. We can open that. Once you open that, we need to execute that. Yeah? Which means what? Only metadata will be there. If we execute it, then it is going to pick up the data and run the profile and we can look at the results. Then results will be stored in the cache for the temporary purpose, not persisted. Remember, yeah. Yeah. So now can you see here, if you go and look at the results tab, where you will not see any output, right? Because it is just a meta. Now if you run it, then you will see what we call the results, which means what? It is going to run the profile against with the data, like whatever the part that you have given. Then we could able to see the results. Can you see here? This is what happens. Yeah. If it is already persisted, let us say, if you just open that, you should get the data, right? That is not the case. This is just a metadata. That's it. When you run it, it is going to point to the what you call flat file, and then get the data, profile it, then we could able to see. Then it will be stored for the temporary purpose in cache. Then after a while, it will be cleared it off. Yeah? So that's why it will be there for some time. Yeah? Now the next is what?
Can we export this summary data into some flat file?
Yeah, we can do that. Can you see here? Export results to a file. Send to. This is the answer to your question, Sridhar.
Okay, yeah.
So you can specify here export results. Yeah? Fine. Now the next is what detailed. I didn't talk about pattern part. Huh? In pattern we have what X7, which indicates what 7-character pattern, which I was trying to talk some time ago. Yeah? And then second is what 4-character pattern, where we have 122 rows where they follow what you call 4 characters. So which means what majority of the records which you can see as part of this particular profiling output is what we have this. What is this? 4-character and 7 characters pattern. We have other records where they follow what you call 6-character null pattern, which I am going to talk now, which means how it is going to work with what we call profiling. That's what we are going to talk now. Yeah? Let us look at what we call the output for this 4-character or 7-character pattern. Yeah? So we have 186 rows, right? We can double click so that we could able to see drilled output in the bottom. These are the records where they follow 8-character pattern, which means customer tier column, right? Diamond, emerald. These are all the what we call values where we have 8 characters. Yeah? For example, let's say we have a zip code. Yeah? Now, if we take India, we'll have a 6-digit zip code, right? But in case if we have any what you call customer data where they have not given 6-digit zip code, instead they have given, let's say, 4 or 10 or whatever, right? Such values will be identified just by looking at the what you call pattern analysis. You don't need to look at the actual data, like what is this actual zip code all about. Such things will be easily identified by using what this pattern analysis. Yeah? Now let us get into what we call 4-character pattern. So again, X indicates character, 4 indicates what? Number of characters within a, what we call with a length of what we call 4, which is what you can see here. Like we have gold, ruby, and so on. Yeah? So it won't see the data, instead just looks at what we call either it is a character or a digit. Based on that, it will give you the results. That's all it does. And also nulls also will come to that. Yeah? So broadly, we have 2 types of patterns, namely numeric pattern and string based pattern. Yeah? And third, we have what? 9, which indicates what? Single digit pattern. Remember, if you are numeric values like 0 to 9, all of them will be part of what? Single digit pattern. In this case, if it is a 9, which indicates what? Single digit pattern. If you have 2 9s, which means 2-digit pattern. So we can have single digit and multi-digit pattern. We'll look at them. Yeah? We have 90 rows where we have what we call single digit pattern. What are those? We can see them as part of this customer tier column. 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 1 and so on, right? All of them would come under the category of single digit pattern. Clear? Now, now let's get into what we call null pattern. Null, we have how many rows where there is a null? We have 28 rows where there is a null. Yeah? And percentage will be calculated based on the total number of rows, which is total we have 500 here and 28 nulls. 28 here by 500 into 100, which is equal to 5.6. And double click in order to look at what we drill down output, which means in order to understand what are those 28 rows where there is a null, and start identifying what are the customers where the customer tier values have not been assigned, belongs to which region, what is the full name, company, address and so on. So they will focus on these customers why we have not got any data corresponding to customer tier column. Then we need to start analyzing by interacting with these customers, or there could be some impacted columns why we have what we call customer tier value as what we call empty or null. This is what need to be done by what we call business analyst or information analysts. Now let us get into what we call others pattern. Remember, this is an important thing. Anything which is less than 5% of occurrence of records. Remember, if we have 5% or less than 5% of occurrence of records, those records will be part of what we call others pattern. In this case, we have 2 records. So if we calculate percentage of occurrence for these guys, so we have diamond 1, diamond 2. These are what we call individual records where they don't have any duplicates, but they have what we call unique values. So which means what? These things, diamond 1, 8 characters, what we call 8 character and digit, 7 characters and 1 single digit. Do we have any other records which follows this pattern? Answer is no, only 1. Similarly, we have 10 characters or 7 characters and 3 digits, all for numeric, if we consider. So do we have any records which follow this particular pattern? We don't have it. So that is why if we have this kind of records where the occurrence, which means the duplicacy of this particular value is less than 5%, such records will be part of what? Others pattern, which means what? Anything other than string or numeric or based on this occurrence basically. Others means what? Others pattern will come into picture if the occurrence is less than 5%. Just remember that. So that's about what we call pattern analysis. So once we understand this, next thing is going to be what? We need to get into what we call next detailed property, which we call statistics. So we talked about how to create a physical data object, how to configure column profiling, which is based on default properties, and then we have also talked about summary properties of what we have in column profiling, and we have also talked about what we call detailed properties, not completely. We have just talked about values and patterns of what we have in detailed properties. Now we are going to talk about what statistics corresponding to each column. Now we picked up one column which we call customer tier column, where we are trying to understand what is the statistics here. First and foremost thing here is what? Maximum length, which means what? How much is the maximum length of data we have for the customer tier? If you look at the values, you will get that. What is the maximum length of a string? Here, diamond 1, 2, 3, where we have 10 characters in length. From that, we will get to know what is the upper limit with respect to length or total number of characters, and also minimum is what? 1, where we have 1, 3, 2 and so on, right? They all comes under the category of minimum length, which is what? 1. Yeah? And bottom, you will see what? You have top 5 values and bottom 5 values, which means if we order the data in descending order, so you will see top 5 values which comes under what you call under top 5 category. Similarly bottom category, which means what? From this what you will get it? You will get to know what are the what you call top tier customers, what are what you call bottom tier customers. From that, what we could do here is, yeah, this kind of data we have. Based on that, what you call, we can say that these are all the what you call bottommost customers. These are what the top customers. Based on that, do we need to what you call create the reference data based on this, which means what? Based on top, based on the bottom. That would be decided by what business analyst and start creation of reference data. These are all the factors that need to be what you call taken into consideration while what you call creation of reference data or make this data as a reference for when for some other data quality operation which I'm going to talk about it later. Yeah? So this is what we do as part of this column profiling. So this is a quick profiling, which means what? Quick profiling is the profiling technique which will be used to understand the data based on all the columns, based on what we call all the rows. Remember, that's what we call quick profiling. Now we can get into what we call other profiling technique, which we call custom profiling, which means what? We can configure our own what we call our own profiling data object, which is going to be based on custom options. So we can save this here, copy as link or whatever, or we can also copy, hard copy also can be done. Copy and paste it here, so that you will have one more copy here. Yeah? And then once you copy it, then we can start customizing based on what? Yeah, now we have a copy here. Now once we do that, then we can change it, profile single data object, which is based on custom profiling. This is the one way to configure. I'll show one more way, like how to configure here. And based on the same data object, which is LA customers flat file. Then get into the definition. Here we need to go to the column selection and select what we call specific columns which you are interested in to carry out profiling, which is what we are going to do now. Yeah? So let us start doing it. We have what we call column selection. So you can select what we call the columns which we need, what we call profiling. Let's say full name, company, zip code and so on. Yeah? Depending upon what is needed, you can select appropriate columns and start getting it profiled. After that, we can get into sampling options where we can see default is all the rows. If you want to carry out profiling only for first, let us say 200 rows or whatever, we can select that. So assuming that from the source of the OLTPs, if you get what I call too many records, we cannot run the profile for millions of records, right? Because it would take a lot of time to what you call profile it. So to cut down the time taken to profile the data, we can just use either first n number of rows or random n number of rows. To do that, we have different profiling options. Yeah? You can select this and then start getting it saved. Once you save it, then we can run this profile so that we could able to see the results based on this custom options. Because in the previous case, we talked about all the columns, all the rows. In this case, we are talking about specific columns and specific number of rows, which is 200. Yep. Then we can run the profile and then start looking at the data over here in the results. Go to results tab where we can see the results only for what is a specific column where we have selected 5 columns, and we can start looking at corresponding profiling results, which is what you will see as part of